The plan said $0 a month. That was the line Linda remembered most clearly. $0 premium. Prescription coverage. Dental benefits. Vision benefits. A friendly woman on TV smiling beside the words, "Get more from Medicare." At 68, Linda thought she had made the smart choice. She had spent most of her life being careful with money. She clipped coupons, drove the same Toyota for 12 years, and never bought anything just because it was on sale. So when her Medicare plan promised more benefits for less money, it felt irresponsible not to choose it. Then she had a medical emergency. And within a few days, Linda learned something nobody had explained clearly enough. A Medicare plan can look free when you are healthy, and feel very expensive when you are not. Linda had retired from the county library 2 years earlier. She lived alone in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, in the small brick house she and her husband had paid off years ago. Her husband, Robert, had passed away before either of them reached retirement. After that, Linda learned to manage every dollar carefully. She had Social Security, a modest pension, and some savings. It was enough for a simple life, but not enough for surprises. When she first enrolled in Medicare, she felt overwhelmed almost immediately. There were letters in the mail. Thick booklets. Commercials. Phone calls. Different plan names. Different networks. Different benefits. Every company seemed to say the same thing in a slightly different voice. Extra benefits. More coverage. Lower costs. $0 monthly premium. Linda did what many people do when the choices become too confusing. She picked the option that sounded easiest. A Medicare Advantage plan with a $0 monthly premium. The representative she spoke with was warm and patient. He told her the plan included prescription drug coverage and several extras she liked, dental cleanings, vision exams, even a small allowance for over-the-counter health products. Linda asked one question that mattered to her more than anything else. "Can I keep Dr. Patel?" Dr. Anil Patel had been her primary care doctor for almost a decade. He knew her history. He knew about the blood pressure medication that had taken months to get right. He knew how anxious Linda became in hospitals after Robert's final illness. The representative searched for a moment, then said, "It looks like that provider is in the network." That was enough for Linda. She enrolled. For the next year, everything seemed fine. She saw Dr. Patel for routine appointments. She filled her prescriptions. She paid small copays here and there, but nothing alarming. Every month, when she looked at her bank account, she felt relieved that she was not paying a separate premium for the plan. She would tell her friends at church, "I don't know why everyone makes Medicare sound so complicated. Mine is free." Then came the pain. It started on a Tuesday morning. Linda was carrying a basket of laundry down to the basement when a sharp pressure spread across her chest. At first, she thought it was indigestion. She sat down. She waited. She drank water. But the pressure didn't go away. It got worse. Her neighbor, Marcy, drove her to the emergency room. The doctors ran tests. Blood work. Imaging. More tests. By that evening, Linda was admitted to the hospital. The next morning, she was told she needed a procedure. She was scared, but she also felt grateful. She had made the smart choice, hadn't she? She had insurance. Her plan had been free. The procedure went well. Linda spent 4 days in the hospital and went home exhausted, grateful to be alive, and certain the worst part was over. Then the mail started arriving. The first envelope looked ordinary. A statement from the hospital. Linda opened it at the kitchen table with a cup of tea beside her. She stared at the numbers but didn't understand them. There were charges, adjustments, payments, and a line that said, patient responsibility. She thought it had to be a mistake. A few days later, a second envelope arrived. Then another. One was from the hospital. One was from a specialist she had never met before. One was from a physician group. Another was from an imaging center. Linda called the number on the back of her insurance card. The person on the phone explained that her plan had covered part of the care, but Linda was responsible for deductibles, copays, and coinsurance under the rules of her plan. Linda asked the question she had been asking since the first bill arrived. But I thought this plan was free. The representative paused. The monthly premium is $0, she said. That does not mean there are no costs when you receive services. Linda wrote that sentence down on a yellow legal pad. $0 premium does not mean zero cost. But the bills were only the beginning. At her follow-up appointment, Linda called Dr. Patel's office. She wanted to see the doctor who knew her best. The receptionist put her on hold. When she came back, her voice had changed. Mrs. Harper, I'm sorry. Dr. Patel is no longer in network with your plan. Linda thought she had heard her wrong. He was in network when I enrolled. Yes, the receptionist said gently. But the network changed. Linda sat silently at the kitchen table. She had not moved. Dr. Patel had not retired. He had not stopped practicing. But somehow, the relationship she had depended on for years no longer fit inside the plan she had chosen. She could still see him, the receptionist explained, but it could cost more. Or she could choose a new in-network doctor. Linda hated the idea of starting over with someone new. She hated having to explain Robert's death, her anxiety, her medication history, and every small detail of her health to a stranger. Still, she needed care. So she picked a new doctor from a directory. The next surprise came from the pharmacy. Linda had taken the same blood pressure medication for years. It wasn't exotic. It wasn't experimental. Her doctor had adjusted the dosage carefully until it worked without making her dizzy. But after the hospital stay, one of her medications was changed. At the pharmacy counter, the technician looked at her screen and said, "Your plan needs prior authorization for this one." Linda didn't know what that meant. She just knew she could not take the medication home that day. There were phone calls between the doctor's office, the pharmacy, and the insurance plan. Days passed. Linda worried. Her blood pressure rose, which only made her worry more. Eventually, the medication issue was resolved. But by then, Linda understood the real problem. She had spent so much time looking at what the plan offered that she had never learned what could happen when she actually needed serious medical care. She had compared the bright benefits. She had not compared the limits. She had seen the word free. She had not asked what she might owe after a hospital stay. She had checked one doctor's name. She had not understood that provider networks can change. She had seen prescription coverage. She had not checked how her specific drugs were covered, what tier they were on, or whether prior authorization could become an issue. None of this meant her plan was bad. That was the part Linda struggled with most. The plan had not necessarily done something illegal. It had not secretly charged her a premium every month. It had covered care according to its rules. But those rules were not the same thing as the promise Linda thought she had heard. A $0 premium was not a guarantee of zero spending. Extra benefits were not a substitute for understanding hospital costs. A doctor listed in a directory today was not a promise that the same doctor would always be available tomorrow. And a prescription being covered did not always mean it would be simple, immediate, or inexpensive in every situation. Linda eventually met with a local Medicare counselor. This time, she came prepared with a folder. Inside were her medications, her doctor's names, her recent bills, and a list of questions she wished she had asked before enrolling. What is the annual out-of-pocket maximum? What would I pay if I am admitted to a hospital? Are my doctors in network right now? What happens if one of them leaves the network? Are my prescriptions on the plan's formulary? Do they require prior authorization? Can I afford the costs if I have a bad year medically, not just a good year? The counselor told Linda something she never forgot. The best Medicare plan is not the one with the prettiest commercial. It is the one you understand before you need it. Linda did not become an insurance expert overnight. But she stopped calling her plan free. Now, when friends mention a $0 Medicare plan, she doesn't tell them what to choose. She tells them what she learned. Free is not always free, she says. Read what happens when life gets expensive. And that may be the most important question to ask before choosing any Medicare plan. Not, what does this plan give me today? But, what happens if I end up in the hospital tomorrow? This story is for educational purposes only. Medicare plan rules, doctor networks, prescription coverage, and costs can vary by plan, location, and year. Before enrolling or changing coverage, review official plan documents and consider speaking with a licensed Medicare professional or a free local counseling program.
Yeah. You know what it is. Yeah. You pull up with your hair tight, sweats on, still a masterpiece. Talking about your long day, lay your worries right on me. You say you hate when I'm on tour, different times on different sheets. But you the only place I rest when the noise is out of reach. Got your lipstick on my hoodie, that's my favorite kind of stain. You be tripping about those comments, girl, they don't even know your name. You don't care about the numbers, you just ask if I'm okay. That's the type of love that make a sinner wanna pray. You tell me, slow down, you moving too fast. Every room you in, you live in.